Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. 7 days, 1 week until the Cubs season opener at Wrigley Field. That means we are Mark DeRosa days, Jody Davis days, Dansby days,
Mike Dubs days.
Mike Dubs days.
Jan Gomes days.
That counts as 41 mentions.
41 mentions of Mike Dubs. But also, he tweeted today a picture of him, I think at Target Field because he lives in Minnesota, wearing his own personalized Cubs jersey that has a 7 on the back. So,
it's pretty good.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Who did you say, Ryan? Gabby Hartnett?
I think
Gabby Hartnett
way
days?
back. Well, you said so it's
DeRosa days?
41. 41
I
more
don't know,
days
41
of
or 42 days of Dubs.
Who just
all
who's
he's getting
50
all of
yesterday?
it.
Gerard.
Yeah, Gerard was 50 yesterday.
49
Gerard.
days. 49
Gerard.
days for Gerard.
Shout out to Gerard for
Yeah.
the $50 super chat.
If you want your name shouted out every day, you got to super chat us $50.
$50.
It's all it
you
takes.
get 50 straight days.
50
Gerard.
straight days of mentions
Because we're
on this show, no matter
we're
what.
a vibe, damn it. All right, sorry.
You can curse my name all you want, but I will say your name no matter what. Give us $50.
Give us $50.
Hey, we got exciting news right out of the gate. Welcome to everybody in the chat. I see Matthew Gregory's here. Fernando, always good people here. Mike Dubs is here. What's up, fam? Let's have a day.
Oh, yeah.
That counts as number 40 as well, Dubs, because I've given you 2 already in the first 5 minutes. Big exciting news is that we'll be doing the pregame show opening day in Wrigleyville at Country Club, 3462 North Clark. So from 11 to 12, Cody, Cordy, and I will all be there. We're not sure if Ryan's going to be free because there'll be a lot of clubhouse stuff going on inside Wrigley Field.
We don't have the schedule yet.
Yeah.
So we don't know exactly what's going to be going on, but we will be there doing the pregame show, 11 to noon, Country Club, 3462 North Clark. Yeah, lots of Goose Island for sure. And they'll have some great deals for you at Country Club. Niren says Tony Kukoc days. All right, yeah, you want to expand out to other teams? Yeah. We can do that.
Take it.
Kenny Lofton days. Kenny Lofton days.
Yep.
Joe Girardi days.
Jan Gomes before he gave Dansby Swanson.
Jan Gomes before he gave it up. Good call.
Never forget. What was your favorite part of Jan Gomes wearing number 7?
All the greats.
The Jan Gomes game.
The Jan Gomes game
is definitely it. So anyways, very exciting that we're going to have this. That's going to be our first live remote.
I know. I'm excited because, like Luke just said, we've never done anything like that. Last year we didn't like the White Sox guys that had the tailgate. We didn't do anything at a bar in Wrigley. Obviously the Bulls and the Bears have done some cool things. We had the Blackhawks take over. We finally get our own thing. I'm excited. Let's.
Niren's going to be there. Niren says he's going to show up.
I'm excited.
There you go.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
We just tweeted out.
Tweeted it out. It has the Eventbrite link, and all you have to do is RSVP. It's free to go, free vibes. Just go there, get some Goose Island before you go to the game, or if you plan to watch a game there, whatever. We'll probably be able to hang out for a little bit after we're done too, so we can hang out and talk.
Well, we got a little time before we have to get back here
because it'll be from like 11 to noon, and then.
Well, with these 2-hour games we're going to have this year, we can't take too much time. You know what I mean? Like, could be over.
Point.
The game could be over by 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Maybe if we're lucky.
Specials from this is from Eventbrite. The link, if you click on it, specials from the Country Club include $6 Altos tequila, $6 Jameson, and $10 nachos.
Ooh, $10 nachos. I like that.
As someone who's been there before and ate there, the nachos bang.
Bang. They bang.
If you're trying to bang, there you go.
On opening day. Go get the nachos at Country Club.
Yeah.
Check out the pregame show.
Too bad we're not transitioning to a Roman ad,
Cubs.
But, oh well.
No Roman.
Rephrase.
By the way, you still got time also to become a CHGO diehard before opening day because all of Ryan's articles will then be available to you. Some of them are out behind the paywall, are free, but not all of them. So if you want to follow everything Ryan's writing and Jared will write about the Cubs throughout the season, that's where you do it as a diehard. You get the diehard card. You get the discounts to all our events. You get the discount all the time to all of our merch, plus exclusive merch just for the diehards, right?
Yeah.
For instance, the hoodie that I'm wearing today was an exclusive just for diehards.
Right.
I'm sending this in the Discord right now. I'm going to put a mailbag together.
Okay.
For Monday, diehards only, so you got to be in the Discord to ask questions, and only diehards can access the mailbag. So for diehards that are looking for just straight up diehard content, we got one coming. So if you're in the Discord, start sending me some questions. I think I just sent out the message. Start sending some questions. I'll get it out Monday. So we got a few days to kind of get your gears grinding, get me some questions, and we can start to really preview the Cubs and what this season might actually be about.
First question, what was your favorite part of spring training?
Oh, man.
Oh, by the way,
So many.
Stuckmeyer Herrera Del Mendo with you on a Thursday afternoon here in Chicago. Looks like the sun's coming out. That's nice. And the Cubs have reduced their roster in Arizona to 41. Notable moves being sent to minor league camp: Nelson Velasquez, Cam Sanders. Little surprising to me. I thought he had maybe an outside shot. Nick Birdie, Manny Rodriguez, David Bodie, Matt Mervis. We've realized that was happening.
Yeah.
I think there was a pipe dream, up through Cubs convention where some people, once they signed Mancini, I think it was pretty clear that Mervis wasn't going to be on the opening day roster. What about David Bodie, though?
Also not surprised.
He had a pretty good spring, though.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
How
many times have we seen it, though? I feel like is one point, and also I think the Cubs definitely want to see. They want to see more from Rios, and Wisdom has earned a spot on this roster. I mean, we're
because he has the power that nobody has.
They're so deep on the
Rios hit that
infield.
home run yesterday, I want to say it was.
He's got 4, I believe, in the spring.
Lefty power, which the Cubs just do not have a lot of. You talked about Wisdom. Even, Madrigal has impressed the Cubs, at least from what they talk about to the media, has impressed the Cubs for what he's done at third base. Obviously, he's also a second baseman, or he can play second base behind Nico. You have Morel still on the 40-man, even if he doesn't start the season in AAA or on the opening day roster, start the season in AAA, he's still that depth there that, if he figures some things out, the accuracy was the main problem with him at third base, but you hope that he's taking a lot of time this offseason to work on that. But I do think, as far as Bodie goes, I think the fact that he's not on the 40-man did play a part in that because, we've talked about it with Mark Leiter Jr., we've talked about it with, Mike Tauchman out in the outfield, they'll have to, if those guys make the opening day roster, some moves will have to be made to open a 40-man spot for him. David Bodie's another one where it would if he were to have played his way onto the opening day roster, a 40-man spot would have to be open. But the fact that there are so many other options at third base that are already on the opening day roster, I think just did not obviously play in his favor.
They're paying him to play in Iowa for a while. That's just the way it's going to be right now. I saw somebody say in the chat saying Velasquez should start in right until Seiya comes back.
Well, ain't going to happen now.
Obviously, that's not the way it's going to play out, but maybe that changes early on.
I was getting ready to say that I'm actually more surprised that someone like DeLuzio was cut because with Suzuki out, and Velasquez going down as well. I mean, who's playing right field? Are they really going to put Wisdom in right field and let Madrigal play third or Rios at third? I don't know.
Well, we're talking about
Morel. Morel's still on the roster.
We're talking about Mike Tauchman. He obviously has not been cut. He's someone that Ben DeLuzio playing for Team Italy. I think just the fact that he was gone from camp. Not that it was a bad idea for him to
or that
play
he's being
for Team
punished
Italy.
for going either.
Yeah, it's just the fact that he wasn't in camp. Wasn't around the Cubs coaches the whole time, whereas a guy like Mike Tauchman had actually played pretty well for the Cubs.
Fair.
That's just maybe a reason why he's
gets a boost for that.
Yeah. But it's also one of those things where injuries are going to happen. We know stuff's going to happen, and they're going to need that depth. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Ben DeLuzio, who we know has speed, is a good base runner. He had that one diving catch yesterday or 2 days ago in the outfield that was really impressive. I could see a scenario where he's in the outfield at some point this year, but him being assigned to minor league camp today doesn't surprise me.
No, and also certainly not a shock that the Cubs named Marcus Stroman their opening day starter for Wrigley Field, be second year in a row, and it's already been lined up that way in spring training. Barring any injury, that's the way it was going to play out. Says he's excited. Had some tweets go out yesterday about it. I guess my question is not, are you surprised, obviously, because I don't think anybody's surprised. What's a realistic expectation for Marcus Stroman this year? He's your opening day starter. What do you really want to see and expect to see out of a guy that goes into the season as your number one starter?
I want to see second half of last year Marcus Stroman the entire year. I think that's a fair expectation. You're one of the highest paid guys on the team. Guys going into an opt-out year. And listen, I'm a Stro guy, but the guy likes to talk. He loves to talk, and I'm not saying that he, doesn't deserve, some criticism every now and then or anything like that. Or vice versa. I'm just saying, like, you're getting paid, man, to be the guy. Mm-hmm. I was kind of hopeful that maybe Steele would be the guy, but obviously we were just talking about the other day about kind of his struggles here at the end of spring still. So it's gonna be interesting to see where the Cubs slate him in after Stroh. But going into the season, I think he's definitely someone that you can rely on. I feel good about going into the season with him. But is he a bona fide number one throughout his career? Probably really hasn't proved to be that. I think he can be a top 3 of your rotation type guy, but this is the question with the Cubs, like we've talked about all offseason. Like, yeah, they have a lot of great depth, but do they have a number one? No. Marcus Stroman is probably the closest one they have to that, so like I'm okay with him being the opening day starter. All I'm saying is that for a guy who talks a lot, for a guy who, let's be real, he's set some people off on the internet. A little polarizing. Yeah. If you're gonna talk as much as you do, man, you got to go out there and perform. Like, and again, it's an opt-out year, so this is a huge year for him if he's thinking he can actually make more money.
Right.
So to me, my expectation is give me second half Marcus Stroman from last year because I thought he was really good in the second half last year, and he's got to perform better against St. Louis.
I know what you're saying, but I don't want to encourage him to talk less. He just needs to understand, and I'm sure he does, that when you do talk, you open yourself up to more scrutiny.
Yeah.
Right? That's just the reality of, being more vocal. That doesn't mean anybody would want to take away anybody's right to voice their opinion on whatever they want to voice it on.
I'm not even saying that I don't like that he talks a lot. It's more of just, if you're gonna do it, you got to.
You're gonna talk, perform. And you're gonna be the highest paid guy. We want you to perform like the highest paid guy.
Or people will turn on you.
Yes.
And
I'm sure he wants to perform like he did in the second half of the season too. And there's nothing. I think I'm not going to put anybody's words in anybody's mouth.
Don't put words in my mouth.
I don't. Just because he's the opening day starter doesn't necessarily mean, in my mind, that he will be the Cubs' number one starter at the end of the season.
I agree.
Yeah, and I didn't want to put that in your mouth, but that's what I'm just saying. I think it's very possible that Steele or Wesneski or Tyone, one of those guys, could step up and be the number one starter by the end of the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I wrote about it this morning over at allchgo.com that, the opening day starter is really just more like symbolic than anything. Yeah. Like, it doesn't mean you're going to be the best starter. It just means that, like, going into the season, you are seen as the team's number one starter. And I'd say out of everyone, Stroman earned that last year. Like, he has a track record. His second half was great.
And I said he was a starter. It was Hendricks last year.
Yeah,
Hendricks was healthy.
3 years in a row for Hendricks. So Hendricks will lose that streak. But I think maybe if he was healthy, he may end up getting the opening day start. I don't know. But
if Hendricks were healthy, I think he would be the opening day starter. I think Stroman would again say to Ross, he's the guy.
Hendricks.
He's longest standing guy. Only one left from 2016. Yeah.
But as far as who's healthy right now, like, Stroman's the guy. He earned it. He just has earned it based on his track record. He's the highest paid, $25 million. I think he's owed. Russ, the resource on Fangraphs, says that's what he's owed this year. So that's, he's the highest paid pitcher on the team. Like, he should be the opening day starter. It makes sense. But like you guys are saying, like, he has to perform. Like, it's not just about opening day. It's about going out there, obviously getting the Cubs off to around the right start. But he wants to pitch 30 plus. He wants to make 30 plus starts this season. He's got to do that. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to be good for most of it.
That's how he'll make more money.
Yeah, that's how he'll make more money. But that's just if the Cubs are going to compete, which they say they are. The rotation can't be as bad as it was in the first half last year. And Stroman is, like, you could tell, like, there was obviously some correlation between Marcus Stroman not being healthy and not as effective in the first half, and the rotation being bad, and then Marcus Stroman being good and healthy all the second half last year, and the rotation being
moves everybody
being
back
good.
once.
So what I'm saying is for the Cubs to be competitive and to do what they want to do this year, that's going to start with Stroman, obviously on opening day, but just overall, he has to set that tone.
Right. I will say this about his first half last year. I was someone who defended him because I thought he got, short end of his stick in terms of, some bad luck, right? Because I remember he had a great start in Milwaukee against Corbin Burns last year.
Yeah.
It was either
May 1st.
Yeah, I was beginning of May. He had a great start.
7 innings, 2 hits.
Right.
Someone shut out.
And he didn't have the greatest April. And I felt like the weather had something to do with it. I felt like, just the Cubs offense in general didn't help him out. And the Cubs defense didn't help him out in some of those games either. I still remember the one against the Rays where he ended up getting rained out eventually. And he gave up so many runs because the defense didn't help him out. But again, what I'll say this, he had that start on May 1st against Brewers, and then COVID happened. He got COVID. He was out for however long.
It was 11
and then he
days.
came back too quickly and had shoulder inflammation, so then he was on the injured list for another couple weeks. And then when he was able to finally come back, he was him. So obviously you need him to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And you need him to he's just got to get into that groove. So am I expecting number one starter stuff like top 10 pitcher in baseball? No, but I am expecting just quality pitching, a guy who's going to give you innings. That's what the Cubs need more so than a guy who's going to go out there and get you 10 to 12 strikeouts, in my opinion. I just want the guy to get outs. You know what I mean? So if he can do that and he can stay on the field, then I feel like most of us will all be pretty content with what he's giving us.
Yeah, and I'm also interested to see how the shift restrictions affect him because he is a major ground ball pitcher.
Yeah,
he is.
Especially the second half, he got back to doing that a lot more than he did in the first half, which is what he's always been in his career. Like I think it was close to 60% ground ball rate the last few years prior to joining the Cubs. So that's who he is, and having Nico and Dansby up the middle, just a good defense all over the place is going to help. But I'm curious to see how the shift restrictions might affect. He's not going to stop pitching the ground balls. He's not going to stop pitching the contact, pitching aggressively.
That's why
in the
they did Dansby. That's why he was a big get.
But I'm wondering how that affects him this year, just because some of those ground balls are going to sneak through now.
Let's be honest. We don't even know if he's going to be on the team at the end of the season. If they're not performing well enough, he's a guy that could be moved at the trade deadline. That's just
he has an option.
That's
at the
just
end
the
of the
reality
year.
of where the Cubs are at. So
He has an option this offseason.
We'll see.
I should apologize. We're almost a third of the way into the podcast, and in TV terms, I have quote unquote buried the lead. The lead story has been buried in the show. We had a lot of information to get through: opening day starter, roster cuts, but the big news in Cub fandom today is that small Cheval will be available in Wrigley Field in the bleachers this season. That's right. Technically, the photo I've posted is Ausch of All Burger because it has the egg and the thick cut bacon. But let me tell you, whether it's small Cheval with no bacon, no egg, or all Cheval, the real deal you see on YouTube, which you'll want to run out and get one, it's the real deal. That's a burger I can sink my teeth into at the ballpark. That's a reason to go sit in the bleachers right there.
If
you don't
you
have a
needed
back.
one.
You don't have a back. For old people like me, it's a little uncomfortable. You don't have a back there, so you're not covered. You're out in the elements. But if you got a small Cheval burger in your hand, and by the way, beer bats now available.
Small Cheval
in the other
burger
hand,
and beer bat in the other hand.
26-ounce commemorative beer bat.
So
You can fill with any beer that's available at the stand you get it at.
I actually already have one. Shout out to my guy Matt Menace, Mbone HD on Twitter. Huge.
Matt Mervis?
No, I wish it was Matt Mervis.
Matt Merton?
Matt Menace.
Matt Merton.
Him and his girlfriend Jordan. They live in Toronto. They came to Chicago last week. I took them to Sluggers for the first time in their lives. Too bad the batting cages were closed. Another story for another time. Anyway, they were at spring training for like a week and a half before they came, and his girlfriend did like these food reviews of all the different parks she went to, and she did, I guess, the Rockies and the Cubs. When they went to the Cubs, she got the beer bat for Cubs spring training, And anyway, I remember replying to it on Twitter and was like, and I already knew he was coming to Chicago like weeks in advance. I was like, when you come here, will you please bring that? I want it. So we will have one here on set
A
for
beer
opening
bat.
day. Yeah, a beer bat, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Let me tell you, the Ausch of All, when it opened up here in, I guess you'd call it like West Loop.
It is. I would say West Loop.
It's kind of on the border a little bit. It used to be like the meat packing area. It's legit. Like, I've had a lot of burgers where I thought, that's good. First of all, I don't like the giant patty. So a couple small patties with cheese in between them, somehow they've perfected the small burger patty without it being dry. And when you get it at Ausch of All,
Corey
worth the wait.
Corey knows someone who works at Ausch of All.
Yeah.
And when he goes, he never has to like wait in line. He just gets a seat.
That's when you know you're
and
big
Corey
time.
hasn't tried to take us yet. I'm a little offended.
Yeah.
Niren
But-
says that's good for future angioplasty. That is true. It may not be healthy, but let me tell you, if you're going to like 3 Cubs games and you're sitting in the bleachers twice, you don't skip that burger. And I saw Danny Rocket said to me, you'll have to wait 3 innings for that burger. And I said, fine, save my seat right next to bleacher Jeff.
Well, Danny is very much against the pitch clock. So he thinks that the games are just going to be like 2 hours all the time. And so that's probably why he said that, too.
Niren says it's marinated in butter. Brilliant. Brilliant.
CHGO
Like
Burger
butter.
Podcast.
Yeah, burger podcast.
What?
You get Luke talking
Can you
about
throw
food,
that
it's
picture up
something.
one more time, Sarah Forrest? Do you still have that photo of the Ausch of All Burger? If you're not watching on YouTube, go to this and tell me that doesn't scream #vibe with us.
That looks amazing.
Seriously,
Oh,
That looks amazing.
I'm
In my
starving now. I'm looking at that thick cut bacon. Go, wow.
opinion. Yeah, just the yolk coming out of
The yolk.
I need
That's
one. I need
crack.
one.
For me, that's something that I'm going to show up to a ballpark early. And the moment that the small Cheval opens in the bleachers, I'm going to get that and eat it during the first inning.
Yeah,
like, that's not
build a base.
that's
how
not,
you last 9 innings right
Yes.
there.
Good point, Stuck. That's not something I'm getting in the middle innings after I've already had like 5 beers. I got to have it early.
This would be my suggestion. If you're going on opening day, and you're going to sit in the bleachers, this would be my idea. First of all, it's most likely going to be cold, right? So where do you start the day? Do right donuts. Get yourself a base of a few donuts before you do anything.
Fair?
Go get the blueberry crumble, and then you get the Valrhona chocolate one. You knock those down. Then if you want to go ahead and get yourself a beer bat when you get in, cool. But also pick up yourself, before the game starts, the Ausch of All Burger. Small Cheval Burger. That's how you start your day and you make it through 9 innings.
Yeah.
Anything after that, gravy. Speaking of gravy, I love that too.
I love gravy.
Wow, I like gravy. Cody, tell us about Foco.
Foco, listen, I've been high on Foco since the moment we joined forces, and I realized they had a Matt Schwarmer bobblehead on their website.
I think they still do.
That is going to be a all-time classic in like 10 years. So if it's still on there like Ryan thinks it is, you should go get it. And then in 10 years, when you ask yourself what was your favorite part of the Matt Schwarmer era, you can say when I got the Matt Schwarmer bobblehead. So Chicago. You've already got the best coverage for your favorite teams, so get fitted out in the best sports gear around. Foco got you covered from Soldier Field to Living Room North or South Side with hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, like I said, and everything in between. Get decked out like DeMar with apparel from the leader in sports merch and collectibles. Foco, looking for the perfect gift for the football fan in your life. Foco's got you covered with hoodies to fight that Lake Michigan breeze. Check out Foco.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use promo code CHGO for 10% off. Hell of a deal.
Hit Foco now so you have it before opening day. Yeah. Then you go to Do Right Donuts. Then you go to Small Cheval.
Yeah.
Well,
no, they
I'm sorry. You go to
Country
Foco.
Club.
You go to Foco first. Then you go to Game Time to get your tickets for the bleachers. Then you go to a country club for the pregame show. Then you go to Do Right Donuts.
Or
then you go back
step by
to
step.
Or
Yeah.
if, unfortunately, you can't go, you can just get Fubo TV and you can watch the Cubs on it.
Oh,
Because
Fubo
Marquee
TV.
is on Fubo TV.
Yeah, we have a new partner. Proud to announce Fubo TV, 140 plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. Stream live TV from any device. Start watching immediately with a 7-day free trial. No contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching. 1,000 hours of cloud DVR also included at no charge. By the way, right now you're going to have college hockey, also NCAA tournament on ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPNU. The Frozen Four comes April 6th through the 8th. But yeah, the big point is Marquee for Cubs fans. You can watch Marquee on Fubo TV. Use the link in the description to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro.
Michael Collada should be right up this alley. You get a discount. You're not giving all that money to Ricketts. I mean, congratulations, man. Fubo should be your new favorite app.
This is his dream.
This is
Love
his
it.
dream.
All right, we are going to continue our evaluations or rankings of the NL Central, where the Cubs rank at each position. We've done first base, we've done second base, we've done shortstop, all positions where we believe the Cubs have either held their ground or moved up against the division. Now we slide over to third base, where things get a little more murky in the NL Central. So here's what we're looking at for the NL Central third base. I hate to say it, but obviously Nolan Arenado is obviously the class of the division. 7.9 WAR. You could argue very easily that he is the best player in the division. You know, I mean, some would say Goldschmidt, but I would say some would argue, and I even heard this, I think, on the radio this week, some arguing he still could be the most all-around player in baseball. Best all-around player in baseball. Mike Trout, yep, for sure. But Nolan Arenado's he's won a Gold Glove every single season.
Gloves. Like, I think the last however many platinum gloves he's won. 2 or 3, maybe?
He's good, and we hate the Rockies for it. DNVR.
Yeah, the Rockies are still dead to me. The biggest fleece job in all of sports. Not baseball, all of sports. This is straight up the biggest fleece job I've ever seen.
6 straight platinum gloves, by the way,
6
for Arenado.
straight platinum gloves.
Despite the fleece job, Delmetrics says otherwise, though. That's all I'm saying.
Delmetrics are always different. You always have to check Fangraphs and Baseball Reference, but then you've also got to Google the Delmetrics because that a lot of times will even out. That'll be the decider for where something really goes.
Delmetrics.
And so for Cardinals fans that are listening to this, you're going to want to Google Delmetrics and always check.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's not hard to find.
Sometimes Delmetrics will make the whole thing go sideways.
I've been sending petitions to get it put on Fangraphs, and they won't do it. But
we'll have to call Jeff Passan and see if he can get that pushed through.
Maybe
John
call
Morosi, maybe.
Or Ken Rosenthal. I mean, it's a travesty. But again, since we can't take it that seriously, fine, he can be at the top.
All right, he's at the top. and the Cubs are also not number 2 on this list either. No. The best you could say is maybe the Cubs are 3, but Ke'Bryan Hayes,
he's awesome.
He's pretty good.
He's going to be real good.
Yeah.
When Arenado's done playing, Ke'Bryan Hayes will probably still be the best third baseman in the division. Like 4.2 WAR. That's Baseball Reference. Sorry, Corey.
Disgusting.
Even I'm a little disgusted because I look at Fangraphs more than Baseball Reference.
Listen, here's what I do. I Google, and the first one that comes up is Baseball Reference.
That's such a stuck thing.
I Google it. Baseball Reference comes up before Fangraphs, so that's what happens.
That's fair. That's fair.
I like Ke'Bryan Hayes a lot, and it's crazy that he's such a good player. He hasn't been great offensively, his first couple years in the league, but this is what he did last year at third base. 24 defensive runs saved, 18 outs above average at third base. Like that,
and he's a vibe.
Yeah, and I think he had like an 88 WRC plus. So like he had 88 WRC plus in 2022. His whole game right now is awesome defense. If he figures it out at the plate, like this guy is going to be one of the best players in the division because he's already so good defensively at third base. If he can, I don't know that he'll reach Nolan Arenado levels or at the plate offensively. But if he could just be an above-average hitter, like that's a really good player.
Next Wednesday, we will be doing our season preview. Maybe we will do top 10 players in the division and see where if he makes that top 10 players in the division. There's a lot of good players in the division. I'm not going to say we're the West. We're not the National League West, but there's a lot of good players still within this division, and Arenado and Hayes are on that list. Now, I believe the Cubs are third. They're right in the middle of the pack here when you look at third base. And it's probably, first of all, we can't guarantee you who's going to be the starting third baseman.
Yeah, who do we have on there right now?
I put Rios and Wisdom. I left out your guy Madrigal because I don't think he'll be I don't think he'd be playing there on a consistent. I don't think he's going to get the most starts out of that list. No. I think it's probably Wisdom and Rios, but it could be Rios and Wisdom.
Rios has been very impressive this spring.
It could just be a straight platoon, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Morel at some point. We talked about he could be there.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is Rios opening day because they're going to have to go up against Corbin Burns and at least give him the lefty-righty matchup. Because Patrick Wisdom, I mean, he's faced Corbin Burns enough, and I don't feel good about that matchup. So I do think that it'll be a platoon in terms of matchups. Rios will probably play more against righties versus Wisdom against lefties. Wisdom hits better against lefties. So they both bring a lot of power, that's for sure. Those guys could combine total more home runs than Nolan Arenado this season. So, whatever. As far as defense, you're hoping that Wisdom gets back to 2021 form because he was a really good defensive player in 2021. Last year, I don't know exactly what happened.
He still provided you. The reason they're third is whether it's Rios or Wisdom. Wisdom still gave you 25 homers last year.
Yeah,
I know. There's obviously major flaws in his game, but
so Wisdom, he had a 2-run single in some spring training game the other day, and I tweeted from the CHGO Cubs account it's going to be interesting to see how Wisdom performs in this new lineup that has a little bit more protection for him. I wasn't saying that he was. Or that the lineup is significantly better or anything like that, but I was just saying it is improved, and to see where he is going to be in the lineup and see how much more success he can have, not being the only power threat in the lineup. And someone, everyone always throws the batting average and the strikeouts out there. I genuinely think that the strikeouts come a little bit down for him this year, based off the lineup, and he's going to have a little bit more protection, and I don't think he's going to be in the middle of the lineup with the pressure to have to drive in runs all the time. So I think he can be
that's one of the main things.
Yeah, I think he can be a very solid role player, and that's not to say he's going to be all-star level, just a solid player, like a Adam Duvall type or something like that.
I've got a question for you, Ryan, because I think unlike Cody, I don't believe that the strikeouts will change. He is who he is. He's a home run hitter who will strike out. I think the place we can hope that he improves is defensively.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what we can hope for.
Well, he had that 2021 where he was actually pretty good at third base. Last year wasn't. And he doesn't it's not like he has such a long track record where you could say, 2022 was a fluke. Don't know what's going on with him, but that's not going to happen. You don't know that. 2021 could have been the fluke for all we know as far as how well he played defensively at third base. But the fact that he has shown the ability to play a really good third base can at least inspire some confidence that he can get back to it, right? Maybe he's not a Gold Glove third baseman, but if he can just, he makes the routine plays, makes the hard plays, more often than not, then you feel good about having him at third base. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's probably going to keep striking out a lot, near the league, the top of the league. He might give you, if he gets, the amount of playing time that he's gotten in the past, he could still get you over 20 bombs. But the one place where you want to see and can expect to see some improvement is at third base because he's done it before.
Barb says we're not reading comments today. I just read Barb's comment.
I wasn't saying that Wisdom's strikeouts were going to significantly come down. I'm just saying that I think it can come down below 34%. That's what it was last year. He struck out 40% of the time in 2021, the year that we were talking about how he was better than last year. So all I'm saying is if he could strike out 30%, I feel like that's a significant improvement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I wonder if his defense regressed last year because he wasn't playing every day at third base. You know how we said, Morel's better defensively at this if you would just put him at one position.
Yeah.
It's not easy to go in and out of the lineup like that. And I wonder if that, I mean, obviously that probably would be the case again this year. So if that's the problem, he needs to fix that.
He's a guy, too, that, like, we didn't put him on the graphic, and we talked about at the beginning of the spring, like, where's Morel going to play? And now it feels like he might go to Iowa to start the year.
Which, according to Gary, you would owe him a sandwich if he does.
Gary thinks I owe him a sandwich just because I bet against bet on Indiana this past weekend. I never bet him that it was going to be a thing. Anyway, I don't know by the end of the year if Patrick Wisdom and Edwin Rios are the guys playing third base for the Cubs. Like,
I just don't know
the way you start the year. At this point,
it's the way it starts.
Like.
Barb.
We know Arenado is going to be the third baseman for the Cardinals.
Yes, and Brian Hayes.
Yeah,
health permitting. Barb and some other people throughout the chat, all off season, have been saying, "Hey, go trade for Javi. Get Javi off the Tigers, bring him back, and put him at third base." Okay.
He'll strike out
I don't
just
think
as
they're
much
going to
as
do
Wisdom.
it right now. No. I don't think that's a deal that's going to happen now. Could I see that happening at the end of the season if Javi's having a good year? The Tigers are worthless? Maybe.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt that that's going to be a move they make. But we had Brian Anderson.
Brian Anderson, but we know that may not continue.
Yeah, I think looking at
the way it is now,
what they have on the Brewers depth chart on MLB.com, they actually have Luis Urias at the top at second and third base, which we know is not possible. You can't play two positions at once. Yeah. But it also tells me that we may very well see when the Brewers come to Wrigley Field in a week from now, Luis Urias at third base starting. So I'm like, if that's legit, if that's what happens, I'm bumping him up to third on that ranking. I'd probably put him over what the Cubs have right now. Whatever that committee's going to be, I'd probably still put Urias over all of them. But if it ends up being Brian Anderson, then you're looking at the Cubs actually may have the leg up on what the Brewers have. But
however,
we don't really know.
We don't know yet.
Devil's advocate, I would say that if you can get Rios to give you the type of production that he's showing you in the spring, and Wisdom can go back to 21, you might get 40 homers out of third base.
It would be good
right?
to
like
have
I
40
don't
homers
think
out
that's
of third base. It would be obviously good.
That's not. I don't know what the over/under would be for what you would think that you might get out of third base. But even if Morel plays there, the only way you're not getting 40 homers in my eyes would be as if Madrigal starts getting significant playing time at third base.
Yeah, it's gonna be
because those guys all have pop.
To this point, we just don't really know what the Cubs are going to do there. And the roster cuts, Madrigal's still there. Morel is still on the spring roster too. So I mean, I don't know. I agree with the graphic. I assume that we're going to go in with those two, and Madrigal's going to play some third. And at this point, I feel like Morel's going to get set down, but eventually. But I don't know, man. But Luke's right in terms of the power. I feel like those two could combine to hit more homers than anyone else on this list.
They may strike that may be the strikeout king of the team too, third base, but it could also provide the most power. All right, who's ready for this? We've been waiting and waiting. I know most of America has been waiting for our National League Central Division rankings at catcher.
Have we?
I mean, the people of America have spoken. We will finally deliver it to you, and it's not without a little bit of, dare I say,
salt
drama, a little salt, and a little bit of drama. Wilson Contreras is the best catcher in the division.
Offensively,
he is. That's. I mean,
if you're gonna pick one, it's Wilson.
I mean, we said this last year.
If you ask this around Major League Baseball, who's the best catcher in the division, to like beat writers, players, I think everybody would say Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
The Cubs aren't even saying that Wilson Contreras isn't the best catcher in the division. The price they were going to have to pay for Wilson Contreras to be their division, they preferred to go the defensive route with two veterans, right?
Yeah.
It was the price along with the game calling and all those things. If you just had the same price for everybody and Wilson was as good defense, like we know that because Wilson was their catcher most of the time last year.
Yeah.
Until the end when he wasn't.
Yeah.
To spin zone, if Delmetrics had existed 6 years ago, I would have been a lot easier getting off the Wilson Contreras bandwagon.
Oh,
but
wow.
it didn't.
Wow, there it is. There's the first.
It's only existed since May 17, 2022. So, it took me a while to understand that, we'll like this is by the end of the year, maybe this is what we really feel.
I don't want to
We'll
say this,
see.
but it seems like Delmetrics may be anti-Cardinal.
Delmetrics
It seems like
very
it
biased.
seems like the analytics from Delmetrics the numbers seem to skew anti-St. Louis, but I don't know the formula for what's used, and so I can't say that with certainty.
Yeah,
That's the way it looks.
Even I don't understand Delmetrics. I mean,
No one does.
I just listen to what it tells me, and
like the universe.
It does start with vibes. So,
Does- Well,
But-
the hard part for Cubs fans is if you really evaluate catcher, this is, the first position where the Cubs have potentially or most likely taken a step back.
potentially
Offensively,
for sure.
Definitely
Offensively, for sure. Now, they will say, we believe in defense. We're defense up the middle, all those things. We like what we have, and this is not anything against Jan Gomes or Tucker Barnhart. This is just saying, if I had to rank the catchers, which is what we're doing here, it goes Contreras for me.
Yeah. Well, you said the Cubs didn't want to spend the money at that price for Contreras. In their defense, they did spend $300 million this offseason to make the roster better. They didn't
His
want to
money
spend
was
it
spent
on
other places.
Yeah, they didn't want to spend it on a catcher. But they did bring in Barnhart, who has won a Gold Glove, and Jan Gomes was good or decent. As far as defensively last year, he was fine. I think the two you might get better defense out of those two than you will out of Contreras. And even William Contreras, I haven't watched enough Braves baseball to really know. But he was an All-Star last year. He's a good hitter. It's going to suck to watch them have to go up against the Cubs. Both of them.
Brian says some would say Williams actually better than Wilson.
I wouldn't say that at this point.
Not yet. I can't. Not yet. I can't
I
say
wouldn't.
that.
I wouldn't say that. But we do have William second in our rankings. Him and Caratini are actually a good catching duo.
Yeah.
As far as no one's gonna have one catcher anymore these days.
Right.
You kind of need two solid catchers. We know what Caratini is. He played here. Good, solid catcher.
He's
pitchers
turned into
like
a
him.
Cubs killer too.
Yeah, pitchers like him. And then William Contreras. He was an All-Star. I think he was an All-Star as a DH last year, but he's still a very good player. I don't know that his defense rates any better than Wilson's does, but that's a solid duo right there. So I think if we got him putting them together, I think the Brewers are actually number two.
Now, Tyler Stevenson at 3. We talked about the few good Reds players, and I think he's up there with. We talked about India yesterday. I think him and the other guy we'll talk about later at DH. I think those three are and to go with Votto are kind of like their guys, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tyler Stevenson is solid. He definitely does a little bit more offensively than Gomes and Barnhart and Austin Hedges. So it's fair. It's fine. I think with catcher, the ranking wise, it just depends on what you value more. Do you value the offense more or do you value the defense more?
Yep.
And all I'm saying is teams that win the World Series usually have a catcher that is better, that is there for defense only. So I'm just saying.
It's the first position where I feel like you could actually go 1 through 4, and you could make an argument, at least an argument, maybe not a good one sometimes, but you could make at least an argument for any of the first 4 guys. I would say Austin Hedges of the Pirates is clearly the bottom of the division. Sorry, that's not some
He's
big
another form of Barnhart or
it's not some big
Gomes.
revelation. I'm just saying, if I look at the list, we don't even know if Wilson Contreras is really going to play a lot of catcher for the Cardinals.
Right.
So right now he's on their depth chart. He's their catcher.
Yeah.
The Cubs have obviously chosen Jan Gomes. I can't say it's the wrong decision
Jan
right
and
now.
Tucker. And I don't think it's. I honestly I think they're 1A 1B. I think Jan has a leg up just having been here.
Over Tucker, you mean?
I'm saying they're both just going to be whenever however they deploy.
You
them.
won't be able to tell which
It's
one's
not
out
like
there.
you're saying Wilson Contreras is the Cardinals' number 1 catcher. The Cubs don't really have a number 1 because
Right.
I think they value both Jan and Tucker as guys that can go out there and start. They're gonna be some kind of platoon. Let's say platoon. That's weird. Platoon. There's gonna be some platoon that they deploy him. It's not gonna be a strict. Tucker Barnhart's gonna hit lefty. Jan Gomes is gonna hit righty when there's lefties and righties on the mound. They're gonna deploy him in some way, but it's not like you got Jan Gomes as your starter and Tucker Barnhart's your backup. I don't see the Cubs catching situation being that. I don't think the Cubs see their catching situation being that. I think both Jan and Tucker are gonna get a lot of time to play because they both work well with the pitching staff. They don't anything they provide you on the offense is more of a bonus because they're kind of brought in for their defensive side. If Tucker Barnhart has a better year than he did last year, if Jan Gomes can be closer to a league average hitter, like you take that. But as far as catching goes, they're 1A and 1B to me, and that's why we have them both on there.
I think one of the most fun things that we will find out this season is, at least for 1 year, whether or not the Cubs made the right choice at catcher. There's a lot of stuff we want to see. Development of certain players. Can they compete to at least get a wild card spot? Can they get close to that? Can certain guys bounce back? But in the division, one of the most interesting storylines is, will the Cubs be better off with the defensive-minded catchers who we like? We like Gomes and Barnhart. Or would they have been better off? Will Wilson be so good offensively with the Cardinals that you'll just look at his deal and say, man, it hurts. And he will, every time he plays the Cubs, we'll scrutinize every single at bat.
I will say this about the Cubs catching situation: they could move up based on what Miguel Amaya does this year.
That's a good point.
That's
if
fair.
Miguel Amaya is his last year with options, he does need to make his debut this year. We've talked about it. Like, this is kind of the year where the Cubs need to see if he's actually the Cubs catcher of the future. So they may very well move up the rankings if Miguel Amaya is able to come up and do well behind the plate, at the plate, however you want to take it. If he comes up and does well, the Cubs could find themselves 3 to, and higher up that list.
Yeah.
And to go back to kind of what I was saying, like what you value more offensively or defensively when it comes to that position, how much value do you put into Gomes and Barnhart if Cubs pitching is lighting it up? Like, how much credit you want to put into them?
Because we gave a lot of it to those catchers, especially Gomes, the second half of the season.
Yeah. I mean, someone already mentioned in the chat, the ERA splits between Contreras and Gomes were eye-opening. So, it's hard to rank these catchers. Obviously, Wilson Contreras is at the top. He's a lot more proven than the rest of these guys in terms of just the overall catcher. He's improved as a defensive catcher, and obviously he hits. So, it just comes down to what you value more.
And Barb's saying they don't have depth at catcher. They do have some young catchers that are promising. They're further away.
Yeah,
they're further behind Amaya.
Amaya's right there, but you got Moises Ballesteros, who's
Pablo
19, 20.
who we mentioned yesterday.
But I will say,
not a Lollapalooza act.
Yeah.
A guy like Dom Nunez, who just got sent to minor league camp today. He was the Rockies last year. He kind of shuttled back and forth between AAA and the majors. I think if you end up in one of those catching rotations like the Cubs had a couple years ago, he's not if he has to come up and be one of your catchers, you feel okay about it. You don't want him to be a long-term starter, but they have some guys right there in AAA who in a pinch can come up and probably work well with the pitching staff. It's going to be another situation where whatever offense you get from them is nice, but as long as they can handle the pitching staff and call a good game, the Cubs will take it if it's in a pinch, right?
Yeah.
A lot of talk in the chat about pitch framing and how that played into the decision. Let me tell you what impacts pitch framing. The lighting at night at the ballpark. And the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. Cubs have new lights at Wrigley. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes. Customers can inquire about how to upgrade their outdated lighting to energy and money-saving efficient LEDs. Learn more about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device, track your facility's energy usage, and more. Incentives have recently increased for indoor-outdoor lighting, network lighting controls, making these projects even more cost-effective than before. Visit ComEd.com/poweringbiz right now to start saving money and energy. And to start a project, contact them at 1-855-433-2700. For more information, email them businessee@comed.com or publicsectoree@comed.com.
It is weird that we're only a week away from opening day. Like it
is strange.
Like it felt like the off season was taking a while, and then now it's like here all of a sudden. But we're only a week away from opening day. It's baseball season, so you guys start playing fantasy baseball, and you can get your latest fantasy baseball news from RotoWire, a pioneer of fantasy sports for over 25 plus years. You get cheat sheets, custom player rankings to fit all leagues, whether that's rotisserie, points, 10 category, whatever you play. You get that at RotoWire. Let their experts analyze all the wild baseball stats for you. WRC Plus, if you aren't as familiar with that like Luke is. Barrel rate, sleeper prospects, hard hit rate, whatever. RotoWire's got that. You get mock drafts galore, ask the expert function, premium fantasy draft kits, custom start, sit, add, drop, trade advice, lineup optimizers. You get access to fantasy, DFS, and sports betting articles. And it's not just baseball. With RotoWire, you get fantasy advice on everything from golf to soccer to NASCAR, even the XFL, which I'm gonna need that if I'm gonna do an XFL fantasy league for sure.
I'm going to need help.
For sure. For a limited time, RotoWire is offering a free 2-day trial to our listeners. Just go to rotowire.com/CHGO to register. No commitments. They are so confident that you'll like their product and want to invest in a subscription plan that they don't even ask for a credit card up front. So take a peek behind the paywall, and when the trial is done, you can decide if a RotoWire package is right for you.
I just saw that in the chat. You see Mike Dubs with the news helping us out?
So what I was going to say is, because of this Nico Horner news being scratched, maybe some people freak out. Maybe you'll be able to get Nico Horner later in the draft because people who aren't Cubs fans probably are going to look at this and like, is he going to be okay? Perhaps. I doubt it because
bicep tightness.
Yeah. But
it's different than the injury he had last year. It was tricep, so it's like
at
least you're not looking at it as like a recurring thing.
And he was doing work in the field according to Sharma from The Athletic. And so
let's be honest,
it's just like
I'm not too worried.
Thing.
Right bicep tightness, that's something Ryan feels 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Right?
One time
it's also known as swole.
Yeah. Definitely as far as like I get cramps, it's hard to play with like bicep cramps.
You get cramps?
Something like like right here in this area after back in by day. I can't really I can't even shower well because I get cramped up and I gotta. So you can't play baseball like that. If I can't even shower the right way.
We've noticed that a couple times. Ryan's come in and been like,
"Oh, I get it done, but it's
got
hard.
bicep tightness."
No, I get it done, and it's hard. So I can imagine how hard it'd be to play baseball.
Yeah, no reason to play another meaningless Cactus League game.
Absolutely. I don't think it's anything that anyone should freak out over.
Barb wants to get him some Roman wipes for the biceps. Anyways.
That might. Never mind.
Yeah.
I feel like that wouldn't do the job.
Are you ready? Are you ready, Cubs fans? CHGO Diehards out there. We are finally delivering the National League Central designated hitter rankings.
And meaning that, to put this out there, the third time in 4 tries where Delmetrics and our rankings match up.
Interesting. Barb was asking what are Delmetrics? Are they like analytics? Yes, somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Again,
not
but I don't really know how they come together. I don't know the formula.
They activated when I turned 31 last year. I became an analytics guy on May 17, 2022, and Delmetrics was born. But anyway,
it's because it was born to measure the vibes of Morel's first at bat. I'm pretty sure, and that's
something like
where
that.
It grew out of.
Yeah.
Don't rip those sleeves, Luke. Craig says. I know. Look at that.
All right,
Barbara thinks I'm on Lloyd's.
DH rankings. It appears that Trey Mancini gives the Cubs the best designated hitter in the National League Central Division. I don't think that is homerism. I don't think that is absurd. I don't think that's crazy. I do think it's debatable.
Definitely debatable.
I think of all the positions that we've had so far, right? First base, second base, shortstop, third, catcher, and now Central Division. If you haven't seen the other ones, you can go back through this podcast. You can all go to our social accounts. We'll put them out there for you so you can check them out. This one, designated hitter, I think is the most debatable, where you can actually look at all 5 teams and you could go from 1 to 5 and completely flip it around if you wanted to, depending on what numbers you want to look at.
Yeah.
Depending on what numbers you want to look at.
I think we went with Mancini number 1 just because he has the most experience. He's the most proven outside of G-Man.
Not only that,
Troy
he has the most power based on home runs last year. He had 18 homers. Then you went 18, 14, 12, 11. What did Gorman hit?
I don't know.
Mancini hit the most home runs last year out of that.
Yeah.
I'm very confident of that.
Gorman
probably. I mean, he probably did.
Gorman
18,
could be at the
runs.
top. Gorman could be at the top by the end of the year because he has a high ceiling. He got demoted a couple times from the Cardinals last year. I mean, he hasn't shown me enough to where you can be like, this guy is the best DH in the division. Now Winker, I mean,
that's what Doug is saying. He could be better, but he'd have to rebound from last year. He wasn't good last year.
It's the same thing with Winker.
I do say, like, there's not really a clear number 1. Like, even a clear 1, too. Like, oh, this guy's number 1, but this guy's probably really close. Like, every other position we've done so far, like, this is pretty clearly a toss-up for anyone in the division. I was overruled. I said Winker. He was an all-star 2 years ago. Last year was a down year for him. Last year is probably the worst year he's had in the big leagues. But as far as, like, WRC Plus goes, he's had 4 different seasons of at least 127 out of 6.
Has anybody in that group hit more home runs than Trey Mancini in a season? I'd be stunned if they had.
Not.
Here's my thing. So when I first put together the list, I looked at it and thought, all right, let's just go by WAR. So if you go by WAR, baseball reference, 1.4, Mancini's the highest. But, of course, that factors in some defensive stuff, too. And so if you're talking about that DH being the most versatile guy you might have, too, Mancini, again, is probably that guy because he can play some positions other than just DH. He can play some.
You'd feel fine with him playing.
I'd feel okay with him. What I really want from my DH is a guy that's going to hit home runs, specifically on this Cubs team because they don't have him. But I really want my DH to hit home runs. So the reason I say Mancini goes to the top is he's offered up the most power out of any of those 5 guys. Not just last year, in his career.
Which is a fair argument. That's like the DH they're not playing defense, right? Like their whole thing is offense. But to me, and just the way baseball's evolved, like the DH isn't just David Ortiz, right? You throw him out there, he hits home runs, and that's what you count on him for.
Could be Madrigal.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the position has evolved to the point where a guy like Jesse Winker, who I think overall in his career has been like, if you go off WRC plus, well, I mean, he's been probably the best hitter of the bunch, just overall hitting, whether that's the power numbers, the ability to get on base, whatever it is. I think he's just had the better offensive performance for the most part over his career. Last year was bad, and so I don't like. I understand the reasoning. If he had an awesome year last year, like he would be the easy number 1.
Yeah.
If he had that All-Star year again last year, he had that. He would have been an easy number 1. He didn't. He had a bad year last year, but I could easily see him being the clear number 1 by the time this season is over.
But Mancini's year last year was technically a down year to his previous season. So his drop-down year wasn't nearly as bad as Winker. Winker had a bad year last year.
Winker was still a 108 WRC plus. Like that's a down year for Jesse Winker at that point. That's still above league average.
I like Mancini and Winker. I do agree that while I think Mancini is the top DH in the league or in the division, I think you could move it. It's a very fluid position. Again, if he ends up playing a lot of right field, or you put him somewhere else, and Nick Madrigal becomes your DH, well, I would drop the Cubs lower. Because, again, I want my DH to be powerful. I want home runs out of my DH, period.
Yeah.
Maybe that's old school, but...
No, I don't think it's old school because that's why no one wants to see Nick Madrigal be the DH. So, yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, it could flip real easy. G-Man, we haven't even mentioned G-Man Choi. He was solid for the Rays. He's been a solid player. He could easily be the guy. I don't know. I don't know.
Fraley hit 12 home runs last year.
Yeah, Fraley, like I said about Stevenson, Fraley's one of the few Reds players that I kind of like in terms of, like, he could be a problem. He was he kind of came on last year whenever the Cubs played the Reds and back at the end of the year that no one was watching except for us. He had some games. I was like, oh, wow, this guy, he can hit. Left-handed hitter. So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you who's better. But, yeah, Jesse Winker, I'll agree with Ryan. He's definitely had a better career than any of these other guys.
Barbara's asking, has Mervis been sent down? Yes, just today, actually. And not unexpected. No. I have a question for you about DH as we're got to wrap up the show here. If Wilson Contreras ends up just being the DH for the Cardinals and not the catcher, does he move to the top of this list?
Yeah.
Yes, he becomes the best DH in the division.
And then who's the backup for the? Is it still Nizer? Andrew Nizer? If that's how you say his last name.
I don't know the most overrated player.
So I don't know where he'd fall on the catcher rankings at that point if Wilson Contreras moves off. But yeah, Wilson I think would pretty clearly be the best DH of the bunch if that's his full-time role.
Yes,
which would be hilarious if that actually happens.
So Monday we will rank all of the outfield positions as we get closer to opening day. Friday, Corey and Brendan will have another podcast for you right here at CHGO. And we don't want to bury the lead too far, so I want to bring it back all to small Cheval burgers available bleachers this season, Wrigley Field.
Also,
Budweiser bleachers.
Also,
very, very important.
Live show, Country Club, next Thursday, 11 a.m.
Kisner is what Matt Gregory says is how you say his name. Kisner.
Whatever.
Doesn't look like that.
Delmetrics are different for everybody.
Absolutely. Maybe I can explain Delmetrics to you in person at our pregame party next Thursday. I'll have to come up. I'll have to write it down. I can't explain it over a mic.
It's difficult.
Yeah. It's
very, very complicated.
Very
you have to go to Eastern to understand most of it.
Yeah, you got to go to the Harvard of the Midwest. If you're not an Eastern Illinois University alum, then you just don't understand.
All right, thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up.
Shout out to Gerard.
Yeah, make sure you check out Corey and Brendan on Friday. Until Monday, fly the W.